Welcome to another episode of the Cheap Champ Podcast. I am your host, Malcolm Hall, and where we talk about this podcast, the relationship between life and money between the two. And I have another guest today, great guest, good friend of mine, comedian, of another financial person that works in the finance industry. Would you care to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure, yes. I go by the name Jon Grimes.
Jon Grimes, man. Jon Grimes, I'm a good friend of mine, Jon Grimes, out here grinding on the comedy scene. And we both happen to work in the financial industry. He happens to work in banking, and I work in accounting and finance. So, hey, two black dudes working around the money. That's rare.
Gotta stay close.
You gotta stay close, right? Because you work around money. I didn't let anybody work around the money. So yeah, that's it was great meeting somebody who works in the industry and whatnot. Yeah. And then I just like yourself, we used to produce comedy shows.
Yes.
And whatnot. But before we get into all that, give us a little background about yourself. Where you from, and how'd you get to Los Angeles, and when did you start doing comedy, and how'd you end up in banking?
Okay. Yeah. So from St. Louis, Missouri, so I'm a Midwest guy. I moved out here about 7 years ago with no job. And so downtown Long Beach is where I moved. I knew I came out here to do comedy, but I had to obviously get a day job. So I looked outside the window of my apartment and saw a big old bank sign through my window, and I thought, well, that must be a sign. I got the sign from out the window, went and applied the next day, got hired at the bank, and I spent 7 years doing that and 7 years doing comedy now. So yeah, personal banking, business banking.
Oh, I picked that up.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, it's all good. Hey, I'm learning this too. Yeah, it's all good. I got to send out a long disclaimer and stuff.
Oh,
it's all good.
Is the captions for that? No.
You're good.
So business banking, personal banking, home lending. I do it all now. So I've been going steady with banking, going steady with comedy, and now we're here.
Right. So you said you got into banking 7 years ago. Did you start off as a teller and you just kind of work your way up?
No. I was always a kind of a sales job, right? So they put me right into personal banking, right? So I got to interact with clients, open new accounts, loans, business accounts, investments, all of that, right? So I've been doing that since 2013.
So you're the guy that you got to put your name on the list and sit over there.
Yeah, when you need to sit down with somebody, I'm who you sit down with.
Okay.
To open a new account, get married, change your names, borrow money, buy a house. You're gonna talk to me either way.
Okay, I know that guy. Well, we got a savings account for you. Well, there's a minimum of $250. Well, sir, I don't have $250. All I got is $10. Well, you can't open an account here, sir. Come back when you get $250, or you got a direct deposit. Well, I get paid cash. Well, you can't bank here, sir. So I know, because I've gone to go get an account or two. I'm like, man, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough money for you to hold my money.
Fees. Yes, fees is the name of the game.
Fees. Yeah,
the cost for us to hold your money as a bank is where the monthly fee comes in. Either you have enough for us to earn interest on it, or you got to charge you for being there.
And it's like you holding our money like it's a fee. Like, the airline, it's no $50, $35 per pound. It's like, why are you charging me to hold my money? It doesn't weigh anything.
Well, here's the thing. I don't want to come off as too banky defendery. But
I tell him I know how it goes.
In the banking world, you chose us, right? Because you wanted protection for your funds. If something happened fraudulently, who's going to protect you and get you your money back, right? So you're holding your money somewhere you trust it, and that security comes at a cost. So either we're going to charge you a fee for getting this kind of security, or you're going to put enough money in that we go, you straight. So I get it. I get both sides of it. Yes, we are holding your money and we should not charge you to do so. But the peace of mind you have instead of putting your money under your bed is the same reason why we got to tax you. So
I'm more of a credit union guy.
Uh-huh.
So I say, I'm going to go to credit union. They don't like to dump in my pockets like that. And I'm damn sure not paying a monthly fee for nothing. And you're not charging me rent every month for my month. It's like my money's in an account and it's $5 rent a month for you to rent out this account. Like, I'm not paying no rent on my account.
That's very much the case right there.
Yeah, you're paying rent.
There's the other thing too, right? Credit unions won't charge you. They call you not a customer there. You're a member there, right? You're family, right? So the only trade-off to that is that if you leave LA, you leave your local area, you need your ATM, right? You're gonna see a bunch of big bank ATMs 5 times over before you find another one of your ATMs. So the convenience factor is the other thing, right? Thousands of ATMs left and right, thousands of places to get your money out.
Cashback has cured that. I go to Ralph's or I go get me some
charge
Skittles,
now.
69 cents or 50 cents.
50 cents.
But that beats that 350.
Ralph's used to be the deal though. I still use Ralph's to this day to get cash.
Unless I need a ton of, unless you need a lot of cash, and I'll pay the fee. Now I'm still a member at a big bank.
Yeah.
I just don't put my money in there.
Got it.
So my main account is with a credit union, but I'm still a member at a big bank because, like you said, sometimes
convenience matters.
Convenience matters. And two, when you need a lot of money, you got to go to a bank because you can go to a credit union. But if you need, like, I would say north of 250, you got to go to a bank.
Yeah. They don't like to have large cash tills at credit unions because they just don't expect that kind of activity to happen. So there's pros and cons to everything, right? But
the cost of doing business. Fair. Speaking of cost of doing business, you and I used to both run shows out here in LA.
Absolutely.
And man, let me tell you something. It's kind of hard to enjoy your show and have a good show and reap the benefits from the show. Because it's like, if I made a ton of money, great, but I didn't perform the best.
Right.
I killed tonight on my show. Nobody really showed up. It don't feel good running. I mean, when I say that, it feels good to run shows.
Yeah.
It's stressful.
It's stress.
It's a lot of stress to get to that small, good feeling.
Running a show takes you from when you are a talent on the show, right? It takes you from being a talent only, you're kind of the kid, to when you're a producer becoming the parent, right? So now I'm the parent instead of the kid now when I go to a show, because now I'm checking in on everybody else and concerned and where my little ducklings at and how's everybody doing? Is everybody fed? Is everybody drinking? Like, I became a parent that fast, and now you're gonna go be a kid again on stage. And it's like, the transition is crazy. And people can do it with a lot of familiarity and repetition, but up front, when you first get into that and when you do it, not as frequently as other people, you have to have a nice little balance or just hire somebody to handle the parts that take the stress out of it, because it's just a mental thing. Your brain, it's two sides of your brain working, the left and the right, creative or organizational. So it's definitely a journey that you gotta really want to do.
You need help. You go from
help is necessary.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, who really cares how funny the producer of the show is? Even if you're the host, nobody cares.
People expect everybody else to be funnier than you when you bring out the lineup and
you don't want to be the funniest person on your own show.
Also
you want to be. I mean, let me get different. You want to be the funniest person. You don't want to be the only funny person on your show.
Right.
That is not a good show. And once I understood about running shows, is this is a team. I can't, especially if you're hosting your own show. Yeah. Man, if somebody bombs, that's not good for business. Because they're not coming back. I'm losing customers. It's not like, these audience members. These are customers. And I need returning customers. I need you to come back next month.
Yeah.
Return on investment. And it's hard. But speaking of that, talk about some of the costs associated with it, because you had to get the venue. You had to spend some money.
Yeah, no. Producing your own show, there's a lot of upfront costs, right? Depending on which venue you choose, nobody is giving away free venues, right? Even if their show is free, there's a cost somewhere, right? Either you're going to eat it on the front end or the back end, right? So a lot of the shows I do, I try to secure a venue in advance. And when you're trying to secure it in advance, you got to pay because somebody else could also want that date, right? So now you got to lock it in price, right? And you got to, the time you're going to be at that show. Most places have an allotted amount of time, and they want you to be in that window. If you stay longer than that, they got to charge you for running late. Everything costs. So you're renting everything in life right now. So venue costs. Talent, right? You like a really funny show? You think a show is really funny? Every funny person ain't free. So you're going to get one of these head bangers and people that's going to make your people laugh. They got to be incentivized to come. Worst thing you want to do is book a funny person that don't show up because they thought at the end, last minute, you want to pay me anyway. I'm going to go to that show for it, So
I'm going to go take the money.
Yeah. So if I pay you to come, that means I'm guaranteed you're going to get a good crowd. People are going to laugh and everybody's going to have a good time, right? So now you got to make money there. There's drinks. Usually there's a spend minimum, right? Like if you have people in the venue, Are they buying up the bar, right?
2 drink minimum.
2 drink minimums are not our idea. That is the venue saying, y'all been sitting here for 2 hours, piss or get off the pot, you know? So if you go to any bar, you wouldn't go to a bar and sit there for 2 hours without buying a drink, right? So everything is business influence, right? The bigger word in show business is business, right? So they got to take care of the business, even though it's a show. So
right. They got to take care of the business.
A lot of cost in that.
Man, marketing.
Yeah.
We didn't even get to that.
Oh my God.
We didn't even get to marketing.
I was late to that game too.
Man,
you got to put money into the awareness.
Your flyers, $50.
Yeah.
Your flyers, $50. Are you printing flyers? Another $75.
Yeah. Are you paying on Instagram to put you in front of 500 more people?
Another $75. We got $200 for marketing. Haven't sold a ticket yet.
Exactly. Then you try to figure out the right price point for the ticket to not turn people away, but not also think it's too cheap to be a good show.
Right.
You got to get that price right. And it's cost. That's cost. This art form is the freest thing we do is think. Everything else costs.
Everything else costs. Yeah. I mean, even the practice comedy, $5 a night.
Yeah.
You got to pay for, some of these places $5. Nothing's free.
Preparing my set for my audience costs me to do.
And two, it's an investment because not only do I have to do all these things, my time, I have to get people to come out every day. You got to tell somebody to come to the show. There shouldn't be no conversation when you're producing a show. Hey, what you doing next Friday? I got a show. You should really come out. Man, bring some people. You got a girlfriend, boyfriend?
Mm-hmm.
I love to meet women with boyfriends and husbands at that time. Hey, you should come out.
Absolutely.
When you run in the show, you learn I want pairs.
Yeah.
I want pairs. 2 tickets. One person buy 2 tickets.
Bring your mom.
Bring somebody with you because you learn start getting in groups because eventually when you're out there, you just want to bring one person, 2 people. You need a group of people, and that takes a lot of your time. That's not even your money.
It's that building right there. I mean, it doesn't stop, right? You get those 5 people to come, 10 people to come, they bring their cousins. That was just one show you successfully got people to come to. What about the next show? You got to do it all over again. It's a constant grind of awareness and outreach. Right. So yeah, it's costly fiscally and emotionally. Yeah,
emotionally cost because I'm gonna tell you, for me, I ran weekly shows and I ran monthly shows. So if my show was on a Friday night, the clock started again for me Sunday night. I only got 2 days of enjoyment after the show. After that, so it breaks down. You got the week of the show, that don't count.
Right.
So we're done. If it ain't happening to Monday, well, it's not happening. So you got 3 weeks, 1 week to prep, and then 2 weeks we're going.
Yep.
The month goes from 4 weeks to 2 because that last week don't count. That first week I'm trying to get everything done. I got 2 weeks to go strong.
And what sucks about that is that let's say you have a good show and it's the night of the show, everything goes well, decent even, and people could walk away going, "That was a great show, have fun, blah blah blah." That feels good to us because we put it together and perform. So it's like a dual high, and you only get to enjoy that high for maybe that night, and then by the time you lay down, you're like, "Oh shit, I gotta get the lineup ready for next month. I
gotta do it again.
I gotta start talking to people. I got all the people I met today. I gotta hit them back up and go, what y'all doing next Friday? What y'all doing at the end of the month?" Like it's sweet because you enjoy a successful show, but the show literally must go on, and you got to keep at it.
Right.
Grind, literally a grind.
Right, man.
Ooh, I'm sweating thinking about how much you got to do.
I know, and that's why I know you're in the bank, and I just wanted to touch on that because I know we talk about costs.
Yeah, running
shows is a lot, and dude, I don't know how you see a profit. Because you got to reinvest every dollar you get.
Oh my!
Except maybe you might go out to eat that night with some of the money you made, but all that money, it's going back into the show.
If I did this for a profit, I would be a worse person. I know I don't do anything with the intent, especially in comedy for this whole 7. I don't do anything with the goal of profit. Like I would love to make money at anything I do, even when I do out of town shows, but it's just an investment. I'm building this stuff. I'm building this empire, if you will, right? Because it makes me better overall. I've learned the business in and out every time I do this stuff. So I'll pay the cost to learn. It's no different than you going to college, learning how the ins and outs of structure are. Like you have to get in there. If nobody's going to intern you, you got to go get in it somehow or start your own company. So if I need to learn the workings of entertainment, filming, show production, video production, special production, you got to pay it for yourself if nobody's going to book you, right? So it's definitely it's a lot of upfront costs and just overall costs, right? So yeah, I've paid a lot of money in this game.
How has banking, how has like your what you do in banking influenced what you do in comedy, as far as like figuring out how to run shows? Because you know, like I say, you're financially savvy working with banking. So has that helped you? Because you know, you spend all the money trying to put together a good show. You're like, you know, whatever it takes, but that's not always the best idea.
Well, I think I've taken some pieces from work, just honestly from the advice of people I've interacted with at work, and then how people with money operate. They are very frugal. The people with money do not like a fee. Oh man, if you get a fee, the angriest people about a fee in my years of banking have been the most affluent clients. People with the most money will come in and break windows if they get a $5 fee on anything. So that lesson to me is that, you know, once I got it, it's so hard to even get there. They appreciate every cent. Whereas people with less money are just like, I'm cool with that fee. And it's like, what? This is how that guy got that money, because he valued every cent. So it taught me to value every cent in production, right? If you're going to spend money on something, pay for good stuff and make the quality worth it, right? So that was my thing, is that I learned how to make the dollars I spend on quality products so I can go, all right, I'm comfortable with my purchase because I made a solid purchase. So budgeting obviously I got in the banking world, right? Then budgeting for the right things and what cutting costs where you can do it yourself, right? Got a lot of homeowning clients or developers flipping properties, right? So whatever they don't want to pay for, they do themselves, right? I'm flipping a house, I'll do the bathroom. I'll get a guy for the piping. And it's like, all right, I get it now. Do what you can't do, pay for what you can't do what you can. And so I'm like, all right. So when I start doing my own shows, it's like, okay, I can't get a venue, pay for the venue. The comics that I can book that will do my show out free, book them. Comics that I really want myself, and I'm putting it out there, I really want this comic, pay them. You know, like you got to get people who are doing it for the love of the game. The people who are already established, they're not coming for free. You got to allocate your costs correctly and then make a finished product. So yeah, structure and budget. I think I learned from banking to get a successful show. And even out of town when I do this stuff, it's really, I guess that's the biggest thing I got is outreach. I don't think I reached out to strangers as well before I got into banking, where your job is to call clients you never met before to get them to come into your office. So I use that to start calling comedy clubs that never heard of me. And hey, I want to do a show here. Are you calling us? I'm just telling you, I'll be there on a so-and-so date. We'd love to do that show that night. Oh, that's weird. We don't have anybody for here that night. I'll do a one-nighter. Mm-hmm. All right, if you come, I guess we can, you know, so it's like
putting yourself out
there, outreach, confident conversation. Like, there's a lot of things I got from just, you know, that day job that taught me how to be a better person to sell myself, right? I was selling everything else for the bank. Sell yourself, you know? Right. So that was one of the biggest takeaways.
Yeah, I can say, because like one thing accounting has taught me in comedy is like the expenses. Like really, really watch the expenses and know if I'm turning a profit or not.
Yeah.
Because some people just spend all this money and like think they made money. Like, nah, you didn't count everything. Like, look, I'm in the hole for this. I'm definitely in the hole. So it definitely taught me that, like I said, being organized. Yeah. Outreach, I'm still having to learn that, because one thing about LA, you're not gonna get booked at home.
No,
you got to go out. You got to be out. If you want to, if anybody's getting shows, they're out.
You got to club. You got to go like out. A chicken, man. You got to. It's FaceTime. I mean, you gotta. If people don't know you, but they've seen you before, you can get a maybe. Right. You know, like, I've seen this dude a lot. He must either really love comedy or at least be funny. Nobody shows up this much if they ain't at least a little funny, right? So, right. I mean, there's people that I think are big time comics that I've never met before. But if I walked up and for $1 million, they asked that comic, "Hey, you think that guy's a comic right there standing in front of you?" And they would look at me and go, "I think I seen some store, the comedy store. So yeah, he's probably a comic." Like, because they've seen you, right? At least they have like a little bit of visual memory of seeing you somewhere in passing that you even have a comedian look now, right? You know people who you think are comics when you're out. Like, I think that dude's a comic. Like, it's a look because you've been around and you probably have seen them somewhere in passing. So showing up is to me a big deal, no matter where it's at. Even if I'm not going up, I'll show up. Gotta be there.
What would be something that you can tell our viewers that they wouldn't know, some insight on banking industry that people wouldn't be aware of? Like, of course, some of the fees, you're aware of that, but some of the other costs and things that are associated with being a banker that people aren't necessarily aware of.
I think the biggest thing that I found myself educating people about is the reality of credit and interest. Like, I think that's something that people just really don't haven't just got a crash course on of how interest works or how it applies to them even. You know, like credit cards, everybody knows the word credit card, but when you get it, for some reason people think that money is yours. And
it's a loan.
It's a loan. It's a mobile loan. A credit card is a mobile loan. It's just in your pocket, moving with you every day. And anytime you use it, you're borrowing. You're not spending, you're borrowing. And I bet if credit cards have to actually put that money you borrowed this month as opposed to the balance on your credit card is like, no, the money you borrowed from us this month is this amount, $800. We would love for you to pay it in full before we have to charge you more than $800 to pay it back. So I think that's the hardest part for people to realize is that I give people a credit card and they go, okay, so $2,000 is my limit or my balance. I'm like, 2,000 is the limit. You haven't spent anything yet, so it's just your balance is zero. And they go, okay, so where's the $2,000 at then? And I'm like, what is happening? Like, I would have to legit start from the beginning every time. These are college students. These are doctors. These are random. Like, it doesn't matter your walk of life. There are people who either didn't get interest or didn't understand credit. And I'm just wondering, where did we not teach people that at?
You know, I have a course, stressmoneyless.com. I have a free course that teaches you the 5 basics, 5 whys of credit. So what, who, what, when, where, and why about credit. It's basically, who needs credit? When can you get credit? Why does credit exist? So I have that. If you don't go to stressmoneyless.com, you can download that. But yeah, that's funny because, I'm trying to, with my financial business, I try to teach people that because I'm not in the high level teaching people stocks and real estate. Look, people need the basics. Before all of that, like all this podcast stuff, look, you got to start somewhere. People want to get into real estate. You need to understand credit. You need to understand cash flow. Yeah. Because if your cash get cut off, how are you going to pay for this? You need to understand that. Because I hear everybody talking about real estate, and that's great. But I also know people don't really understand.
They don't. If you say real estate, that's the first problem. Because there's so much stuff within real estate. What are you actually talking about within real estate? What realm of real estate are you referring to? Right. Are you in the flipping? Are you in the developing? Are you in property management? Are you renting and leasing? Like, what is your role in this, right?
Yes.
So if you're just saying you want to buy a house and let somebody rent in it, that's fine. That's not bad. That's the simplest way to do it. Buy a house in Michigan, rent it out. It's a $200,000 house. You pay probably $1,000 for it a month. And you charge the rent for it, and it's just washing, right? But the costs still are yours, right? So something happens to that house, it's falling on you. So where's your liquidity for that situation?
Because I never hear those guys like when they talk about real estate. I rent out this house. Nobody ever talks about the repairs.
Exactly.
You have to come up with the repairs,
icebergs, whatever.
Right. You still got to have. You have to have extra money for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And if you don't, well, what's going to happen? And before we wrap up here, let's talk about LA. And being in the banking industry, what about the tenants that aren't paying? Some people haven't paid their rent in a year, and I know the mortgage is not doing the same thing. The banks are not doing the same thing for the mortgage lender then the same thing is for the tenant. See, the person that's paying the mortgage, that's different than the tenant.
Yes.
2 separate things.
Absolutely.
The city is always going to fight on the behalf of the tenant.
Yeah.
The bank and home loans, that's you and the bank. The city ain't stepping in for the bank.
Right.
So they will step in on the behalf of tenants. So when you, as a homeowner, you're jammed up, you're in trouble. When you can't make that mortgage, you're in a jam. You can't pay rent, the city can save you.
Mm-hmm.
There hasn't been no loan mortgage program. They're not doing that. They'll put it on you tell me if I'm wrong.
No.
They're putting it on the back end. They're not giving you no money. See, I got $2,000. LA pay my rent. Give me $2,000 for my rent. No program for mortgages.
So that's a great point, right? So what I've seen in the whole entire process of the homeowners, yeah, just homeowners. I mean, they're technically homeowners, right? Even if they are renting it out, they technically have a loan with the bank. Um, the refuge is coming for renters, right? They just never have to pay, and I think ultimately they won't have to pay. I think if you didn't pay rent at all last year or so, there's nobody's going to make you recoup that. The businesses that, like, let's say a big building like this, right, where they have like thousands of units, they're that was what we thought the bailout was for, right? They're writing off every loss monthly,
right,
and getting the payout on that.
Right.
The banks, I assure you, the last people to worry about any of this, because all the money that gets paid out to anybody is going through the bank first, and the bank is going to make all of the money off of the fees to process these loans to all of these businesses that apply for the PPP, right? So, the real concern is with the mortgage people individually, right? Like, oh my gosh, hey, I'm 3 months behind on my mortgage. The bank is like, we already wrote this money off, but you're doing bad on your loan, we'll extend your loan for you, right? Whatever months you didn't pay right now, we'll throw them on the back end of the mortgage. So instead of 2045 when your loan was going to end, it's January 2045, now it's December 2045. You didn't pay us for 10 months, we'll slap it on at the end, but you're still going to owe interest for all the stuff you didn't pay. Like, so the bank is just reconfiguring it and then making it feel like they did you a favor.
They didn't.
They did not.
They did, and that's the thing. Basically, the bank said, okay, look, it's $100K, right? You're at 50. You paid half of it.
Yeah, great.
Now you're 10 in the hole. We're gonna take that 10 and put it on the back, which is now going to be 13.
Exactly.
And that's that. As a tenant, if you get caught up, walk away. That's it.
That's the end of the conversation.
That's the end of the conversation. Walk away. You got to go through a lot to get out that house.
You got to submit. You got to write us a letter asking us to consider giving you an extension. First of all, we got to modify your loan. That's a whole other process. We might charge you to modify. There's another.
And fee. Then you got because then you got to refinance the fee. You got to pay for that.
Yeah, so it's
a lot. The banks aren't doing you no favor. The renters have gotten all the benefits.
True.
The mortgage, nothing.
True. But this little part right here, even what we just did for the last 4 or 5 minutes, if people get lost in the weeds that fast, that'll turn their interest off of learning about it that quickly. And I wish that people were more inquisitive about what we just said. So people can hear people talking about that and go, they lost me somewhere in there. One of those words, and it's like the familiarity with these words is what needs to happen more. Everybody should know what the tenant is, what the homeowner,
tenant,
mortgage,
landlord, homeowner, mortgage, because mortgage is a loan. Yes. You don't, like, I tell people this all the time when I tell my clients this. You don't own nothing. You own the loan. They will come take that asset. You will be stuck with the loan. You don't own anything until it's paid for.
Very true.
Half of these houses around here, most of the people can't pay cash for that stuff. I mean, even if they could, it wouldn't make sense.
No.
That's why the credit industry, that's why, like, you have to learn how credit works for you. Too much water will kill you. Not enough, it'll kill you. You got to figure out the middle. That's everything in life. You have to figure out the middle. And it's hard. Standing on 1 foot is difficult. Standing on 2 feet, don't pay attention. You'll fall over. Balance is everything.
It's insane if you think about it, that a mortgage, statistically, generally, it's going to be half of your life you'll be spending paying that. Like, for a place you've been living at your whole life, you'll spend half of your life paying for it. And it's like, that's the structure. A 30-year loan is normal. 30 years to pay off somewhere you've been living for 30 years. Like, that's insane, but that's how they set it up, and that's what is normal to people now.
Insane is this. Insane is they give you a 30-year loan. They never tell you can pay it off in 20. All you have to do is pay a couple extra $100 a month. You can pay a quarter and get up out of it.
Nobody told you.
Nobody tells you. See, because I had a conversation with one of my clients. You know, she was paying on she was paying extra on her car insurance. I'm like, why don't you put that on the car? You're never going to pay off car insurance. That's going to last forever as long as you have a car. But you can get rid of the home loan. You can get rid of debt. Debt is temporary.
Yep.
You don't have to have a house. You don't have to have a car loan. You don't have to have anything. All you have to do is pay your utilities. That's the only thing. In taxes, the only thing you're stuck with for life is utilities and taxes.
Taxes.
Everything else you can get up out of a 30-year loan. I ask people this. You always hear about, the man pays the mortgage. Like
Right.
my parents. Both of my parents pay the mortgage. Why? Because if we both pay it, we're cutting off on the back end. We can get up out of here faster.
Sure, yeah. That's not one of those situations where it's like, let's just ride this out. Like, if you can save money, you'll save it by paying more faster, or more frequently.
But people can beat the system nowadays because you hear like, well, the man's supposed to be provider of this, but women are still making a lot of money too. Two people making $100,000 can go get a house at 250 and get up out of that thing in about 9 years. If you don't have a car payment and you just dedicate to paying off the loan.
I don't know what decade or century we're in right now, but there are men out there just willingly paying the mortgage. What? Why?
And you still have to pay for. You got the mortgage, okay? That's what, $1,000. I still got that refrigerator I just got in here. Still got that freezer, that microwave, those beds. I never hear nobody talking about how much it costs to put everything in the house. Because you're putting all that stuff in the house on credit. You're not paying cash. Half your cash went in down payment. Your cash is gone. So now you still need to put stuff in this house. That's on credit.
Credit is an instrument, and you use or a vehicle, whichever one you want to use it as. But it does the jobs that you need it to do for a short-term basis, right? You're not supposed to have it as an active, flowing relationship. It should be an instrument for certain things you need to buy, and so often it gets turned into a active relationship, right? Credit turns into an active relationship with people where it's like, my car just keeps $2,000 on it. Every month that's $2,000 on my car. And it's like, you mean 2,200, you mean 2,300, because you're paying $200 or $300 every 2 or 3 months on that car because you just refuse to pay it down. And it's like, most people have the cash to pay it down. They think that holding the balance on the car is one of the biggest myths in the world. It's like, I got to use the car to get my credit better. And it's like, no. Your credit report now shows that you have an active debt on it every month that you refuse to get back down to zero. You know what looks good on a credit score report is that you have zero debt.
Right.
It looks amazing on a credit score.
Right.
She doesn't owe anybody. He doesn't owe anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's gonna get you an 800.
Right.
Like,
you need credit availability. Like my goal is to keep like $100,000 in credit. If I have $100,000 in credit availability, I'm never broke.
Absolutely.
Now, because I can always find it back, pay that money back. So I don't really get into all that stuff. But look, as long as you got credit, you're never broke.
Absolutely.
Never broke. I always got money. I can go find the cash as long as I got credit. So like a lot of these people, like if I'm a millionaire, if I got $5 million, man, I got $30 million worth of credit to me.
Yes.
I'm never going to use it because I know the interest on that is high. However, I always have access to capital.
The option, yes,
you always have access to capital
and draw is what keeps people powerful. And like the way when we buy we're house shopping right now, right? So if we try to buy on a house and we know what money we're pre-approved for, but you got people that I got $1 million line. Ain't nobody gonna beat me on anything I want to buy in LA if I'm trying to flip it or remodel it or whatever. So we spending our hard-earned money trying to get this pre-approved so we can go buy this nice $500,000 house in LA. And we're like, oh my God, we got it. It's a beautiful house waiting just for us. And then this dude's like, I'm gonna turn that into a duplex. I'll buy it for $550 and outbid us for no reason. Because he has the capacity, he has a $1 million line that he can just pull on at any time and just go buy somebody's house.
Right.
Cash.
Right.
And who they gonna sell it to? The nice little family that wants a $500,000 offer, or this dude saying I got $550 cash. What's up? Like you're gonna lose every time. So that market is in LA all day long. I don't know how many houses we lost out on, but people with credit access are undefeated. Never, like, you can't beat somebody that has instant credit in large lines. Like that is almost better than cash in a lot of instances.
Right. But how's the house? How's it looking for a house in LA? Because I hear the starting price is like $1 million out here.
It's neighborhoods determine that part, but I would say that there's nothing really less than $500,000, right? So depending on where you want to live is what drives that up, right? So when we first started, there was some prices. The rate dropped recently. That's another thing. Rate dropping recently made prices go up because they know how much people are affording now because of the interest rate drop. But let's say early last year, there were houses in the fours that you could get. I mean, it might be in the hood, but it's a house, nice big house, $400,000. You're gonna be there. Car might not the next day, but you got a house. 500, 600. You can get into some decent areas. Inglewood was a 300 or 400K house up until maybe 2017. You could get a house in Inglewood for 300,000 or 400,000. Now Inglewood's 6, 7, 8, 9. Anything by the new stadium or arena, or that's $1 million. So $1 million is accurate if you want to live somewhere and like it. Everything about the neighborhood and the streets. Houses that just have decent streets, quiet neighborhoods, might not have that much action or gang activity. You can get that for 650, 700, 550 even on a couple of streets, depending on where you are. If you're from LA, you can move a little bit better, maybe know more pockets that are chill, right? But me not being from Cali, I'm looking for neighborhoods that seem peaceful, seem quiet, no extra stuff happening.
I mean, I don't know, like, I don't know if I'm gonna stay. I mean, I gotta stay here for what we do.
Yeah.
But buy a home, probably not. I'll probably buy a house somewhere else and rent it out. And I because just financially, dude.
I gotta buy a house in LA until I was like, make it, right? I was like, but you get circumstantial changes. You gotta.
Oh yeah,
right?
Totally.
You got little people. This apartment gets smaller and smaller, man. So it's like, but who knows? It's one of those things where it's like I invest and I play with stocks and sometimes and whatnot, but sometimes a property can be the biggest investment and the smartest investment, right? If I had bought a property in Inglewood when I first came out here for the 200, 300K, I mean, I'd be looking to sell it right now for about 8. So make $500,000 in 6 years. Most people can't do that in general, right? So it's one of those things where it's like, well, maybe we should get something and deal with the equity growth, right?
Right.
I mean, I've seen it happen too much now in this short amount of time I've been in LA to not go, oh, I should probably get a property no matter where it is in LA, because LA is just going to keep costing more to live in, which means everybody's property value is going to go up no matter what.
And it's crazy. You got a lot of poor people in LA too.
This is true.
All those houses in the hood, somebody paying those mortgages.
Somebody's paying those mortgages and then renting it out to them. And if it's in a rent-controlled area, they got a good enough time until that rent control falls off or magically disappears, right? Inglewood just got it added, so that's kind of a benefit. If not, it would have been a zoo. It would have been a whole on. Y'all got 60 days, everybody moving, Yeah. So.
Yeah, man. Well,
journey.
Before we get out of here, man, you want to tell people where they can find you, or give any information where people can.
Yeah.
Where can people look you up?
All this great stuff everywhere. Everyone's Jon Grimes comedy on YouTube. Got a half-hour comedy on there that I produced myself. Costs incurred by me. Yeah, so if you want to see an independent project, check that out. I think it's pretty funny. It's called Going for Broke. Ironic. Going for Broke is the name of my half-hour comedy. Jon Grimes comedy is the name of it. Instagram is Mr. Tan Panda, Mr. Tan Panda. I'm in Twitter, Mr. Tan Panda, the same. So I'm usually on there making some funnies, taking some selfies, using my ring light, what everybody else does on there. Or hitting some open mics. Might catch me up somewhere.
Yeah, man.
Let the streets open back up.
Once these streets back up, you can really get back there and do it. So I got it down, Mr. Tan Panda. Go follow Jon, man. I appreciate you coming on, giving us a lot of dope information. Talking about running comedy shows, because like I say, all this stuff costs money.
Yeah.
And shoot, God, I've never made $1 on running a comedy show. I've gotten paid that night, but if you really add up what I spent, I didn't take home more than what I put in on the actual show.
If I break it even at anything I do, I'll be the happiest guy in the room every time. Even if I just broke even.
Right on.
That's a win.
If you got questions about financial literacy, you want to take some courses, learn how to manage your credit, understand your budget, go to stressmoneyless.com. Thank you, Cheap Not Broke, who's our sponsor. Go to cheapnotbroke.com, get some sponsor t-shirt or grab some merch. And until next week, you find the podcast on Apple, Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. Thank you, Jon, for coming out, and we will see you next time.